Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi on this Friday, and this is a good example the last few days of what a humbling experience this can be sometimes as far as weather is concerned. You know, earlier this week, weather models were not really all that bullish with regards to um, rain. Some rain, yes, maybe from South Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania on southward, but didn't have much for the northern area. Then it really went nuts for a couple of days for a number of runs, and in the end, we wind up back where we started from. And when we look at the new NAM model, and we can see what's happening here. I mean, the rain barely gets out further north than central New Jersey, never quite makes it to New York City, Long Island, and yeah, maybe in central and maybe in South Jersey, south of 195, particularly in the southernmost counties, parts of southeastern PA into northern Delaware and Maryland. You get into some big rains as low pressure develops east of Virginia right here, but as far as our area is concerned, I don't see any big problems for the weekend, other than the fact that there will be clouds on Saturday and a northeast wind with an onshore flow. So it's not going to be the prettiest of days by any stretch. But then, as the low pulls away, we'll probably get enough drying here so that Sunday we should go partly sunny, and that's that. This is almost like a wintertime setup where these systems you wind up going further north, and then they go further south, or the reverse being true. And it can be certainly a very humbling experience. My original thoughts were maybe the 1 to 2 inch rainfall line would reach about New York City, Long Island, with less north and west. So that was clearly overdone and overplayed on my part. And even in areas to the south, why don't we just look at total accumulated precip here? And I mean, look at this. If this is correct, your flash flood watches that have already been cut down for central and South Jersey are going to have to be cut down a bit further, and maybe confined to parts of southernmost New Jersey, down through Delaware, Maryland, into perhaps into southernmost Pennsylvania, where the upper low is, and that's about it as far as it goes. We'll have to look at this model run. It's just now only out till Saturday evening, but I'm kind of getting optimistic here, at least for the second half of the weekend, that it's going to be okay. Now let's widen out just a little bit. I'm going to go over to the GFS model. And this is from last night. And last night, same idea. Actually, the heavy rains were even further south, barely 1 inch rains into New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania. So what happened with all of this? Well, we've been talking about the fact that this trough that's swinging southeast was key, and from going from a rather non-vigorous system to being shown to be rather vigorous, it goes back to being weak. You've got a weak closed off upper low. You've got this O trough east of Newfoundland that's exerting its influence on it by basically ejecting it out to the east. And as that trough swings down and around, it loses its punch. That upper low disappears. The trough opens up, and then just kind of gets left over and sags southward. So this is basically what the models had days ago. And the other outcome through all of this is that we're going to transition over to a very warm and humid pattern into next week, maybe a bit faster, until another trough approaches late in the week with another cold front to perhaps cool it down, although it does drop something southward next weekend. So this is the upper air confined to the eastern United States. We'll take a look at what the surface does. Let's go back. So here's our, stalled front from yesterday. Let me draw it on for you. I'm going to go back to black here. So here's our stalled front, and your waves are coming out along it. You've got some rain moving out of the Delmarva Peninsula, Maryland, and in through eastern Virginia and northeastward. High pressure is building in, so you're kind of setting up that onshore flow. Now, this wave moves up into West Virginia tonight, and then now it's in Southern Virginia. You know, there's a huge difference between having a surface low down here and a surface low up in Delaware Bay. It's night and day in terms of how far north the precip gets, and you can see on the GFS last night, it was generous enough to bring that precip shield up to about New York City and Long Island briefly. The low goes out. Now for the coastal waters, for those of you, I know there's a lot of folks that, you know, fish these coastal waters. You're probably going to have some gusty winds and some gales once you get out, maybe about 15, 20 miles or more. It'll get a little breezy along the coast with the high pressing in and low pressure to the southeast. But if you go a little further off, you wouldn't have to go far offshore. You are going to experience, you know, borderline gale conditions. So just be aware of that, that even though the rain's not getting up here, there's still going to be a bit of a wind issue for the coastal waters. So now that low pulls out by Saturday evening, and then that high just gradually sinks everything south and eastward. So I think, you know, with a little bit of luck here, this is, you know, a northeast flow, but it's not really a marine flow. It's kind of parallel to the land. Might even be a little bit more northeast, in which case we're going to dry out pretty nicely and have a nice Sunday with sunshine and reasonably comfortable humidity. And going through the week, you know, that high eventually settles down into the Carolinas. So this is where we're talking about maybe a faster transition to warmer and more humid air as we get into the middle part of next week, Tuesday, Wednesday into Thursday. And here's your next cold front that comes through Thursday night and Friday. And notice, you know, that front kind of gets hung up. You know, this is how the pattern's been. So we may have to deal with some issues with showers and thunderstorms again at the end of next week and next weekend. But you know, the overall trend from the standpoint of the precip around here lately has been for things to be much more subdued than modeled, and I think that's the thing to pay attention to. Here's another front coming down around August 10th, and another little high that builds down from the northeast. Out in the west, which I have not been paying too much attention to lately because of what's been going on, and I suspect that everything in the west is pretty much the same story. So, you know, we'll roll it back. You get these diurnal showers and thunderstorms that develop, and there's what's left of Hillary, by the way, running up northeastward, and Dunn kind of trails the remnants of Irwin right behind it. Here we have you know, these diurnal showers and thunderstorms, some action down through Texas and into the plains, and then eventually into the Gulf states. But the west is pretty much the same. So why don't we look at the upper air here and see what we can figure out from this, because we know my feelings on this is always that the trend is your friend. And looking at last night's upper air, roll it all back, we'll get to the present day, which is Friday morning. Here we go. So here's our action in the east. Here's that upper trough in the east on the GFS, very weak. Then once that pulls out, you still have troughiness in the east, but it's weak troughiness. It's nothing exceptional. Tries to drop something down from the Great Lakes into the Mississippi Valley here next weekend. So that might, you know, make some complications. But overall, we still have a tendency for a weakness in the east or a trough, and you know, the ridge in the west flattens out. There is a system that does come in during day 12 and 13 in the west. This was shown yesterday, and that the model for several runs now is trying to show you know, this upper high maybe building into the east as we get into the middle of the month of August. Let's see how real that is, but we'll watch now going forward, since it's done this for a couple of runs. It might be something that we want to pay attention to. Just for comparison's sakes, we'll look at the Europeans' view, at least out through 240 hours. And you know, here's the European, which was guilty of being the most vigorous with this upper low, now coming in line with all the other models. It is deeper with this trough for next weekend as it swings it east, and it looks like it has something getting ready to drop in right behind it. You know, we all know how I feel about things beyond the 5 to 7 day period. It gets more and more squirrely as you move out over time. So we don't want to make too much out of all of this. We can speculate and speculate. Let's give a look at the tropics. and see if the models are doing anything. We'll start with the GFS. See if these models are beginning to spin things up. We have a weak tropical wave out in the tropical Atlantic, but it's not showing any signs of organization. We don't see too much here, just kind of weak waves moving across. Doesn't look like it wants to develop anything, at least from the standpoint of the GFS. But you know what? We can always rely on the Canadian to never disappoint when it comes to spinning up tropical systems, or any system at all for that matter. So let's see what the Canadian does. And here the Canadian does start to spin something up here in about 3 or 4 days, and looks like it's got another wave behind it. So at least out to day 10, it's got the Canadian's got 2 weak systems coming across, but again, not developing it into anything that is worth considering. So let's get through whatever we get through here, and hopefully we can salvage at least half the weekend. And actually, if you're north of New York City, up into the Hudson Valley and on up through into Connecticut, outside of some clouds in the southern areas, it won't be too bad, and you might see some improvement a bit faster. So if you have outdoor plans, if you're north of New York City and Long Island, northern New Jersey, northward, go ahead with them. I wouldn't change anything based on what I'm seeing, particularly since everything has shifted the way it has to the south. So have a great day. We got some time this morning, so I think we'll just chat a little bit as this video comes to an end, and you can I'll switch over to a live feed. And you can, of course, check out the latest website posts on meteorologistjoecioffi.com. And Angry Ben has got New York City covered on nycweathernow.com. Okay, folks, you should be able to hear me. Let me just mute the other side. So if you can hear me, just let me know. And good morning to you all. See, we have a nice little crowd here this morning. Throw at me any questions and comments you'd like. And just if somebody could just let me know that you can hear me, that would be great. Anyway, we are always learning new things when it comes to this. Every year, I've been doing this for a long, long time, and busts are common, depending, especially when you're covering a wide range, and it's very tough trying to forecast. Forecasting sunshine is one thing, forecasting rain on a summer weekend is another, and forecasting snow in the wintertime is also quite another thing. So rather humbling experience, at least for the part of my area that's up near where I am, where Long Island, northern half of New Jersey, rainfall amounts are probably going to be under a half an inch. And to the south, we're looking at higher amounts, but the models were just ridiculous with some of these extreme numbers that they were printing out. And when you see the models do that, your eyebrows are raised, and certainly you want to be cautious, because every once in a while you do have some excessive rainfalls. But we learn and we go forward, and we admit we try to figure out what it was that didn't turn out the way you thought it would. And in this case, it was the fact that the upper low and the upper air trough is just not as vigorous. The trough in Newfoundland is overpowering it, and models, all of them, were completely wrong in how they're handling much of this for at least my neck of the woods. That may not necessarily be the case when you go further south down into southernmost New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, and into eastern Virginia, because you folks are you're going to get your rain out of this. It's the areas to the north. But hey, the upside is that we'll wind up with at least half a weekend. I think Sunday's going to be a good day. So let me just say hi. Thank you to Greenville Weather for letting me know, and for 99 Wolves, and for Raymond, Anne-Marie Charlot. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. You're watching us from Trinidad, which is really cool. And hi to Moretta Blake Thomas. Raymond points, I thought busts were more common in the winter months than in the summer months. Well, you know what? You bust in the summertime, it's usually because you're forecasting rain, and if it doesn't rain, people are not necessarily unhappy about that, okay? Particularly, folks that are headed for the shore or have a weekend plans. In the wintertime with snow, busts become much more of a problem because of the fact that the impacts are so much higher with travel, with work, with school, and so on. So people are more sensitive in the wintertime when it comes to busts. I always, try to point out to some people who will hit me, when a bust happens. And they're upset, and my response to that usually is, well, I'm sorry you didn't get whatever tragedy or catastrophic event you were looking for. I've never quite understood that. If it looks like there's going to be a big weather event of some kind, and it doesn't quite work out the way the forecast is, and the impacts to you are less and not problematic, how can you be upset about that? But I understand where it's kind of coming from, but let's get real here. Raymond, you're in fantasy land. The Canadian always spins stuff up. Yes, it is. It is fantasy land when it comes to the Canadian model. Ryan Ford, is it possible for this nor'easter to form into some kind of tropical entity? Well, sometimes that actually does happen. I don't think it's going to happen in this particular case. Not enough time. Gets involved in the jet and pushed out to the northeast. I really didn't look beyond the immediate coast as to what happens after that. Sometimes these upper lows, when they get very vigorous, they can cut off and drop off the southeast coast of the United States and then sit off the coastal waters there and warm over a period of several days to a week. And there are many examples of cold core systems that eventually transition over into tropical storms. I don't think that this is going to be one of them. And I really didn't look beyond the immediate coast to see what it does once it gets way out into the Atlantic. Dio, are all weather models the same, or some of them are lying? Okay, I don't know about lying. Okay, that's I don't think you mean, lying implies someone purposely saying doing something that is inherently untrue, and the model is an inanimate object, so it doesn't lie per se. But yes, models, they had differences, and some caught on to those differences earlier than others, but they were all terrible this time around. Particularly the European, which had a wrapped up low in northern Delaware and implying a gale center passing east of the New Jersey coast. The European in general is a better model, and I understand that, but there are times when that model has just been plain awful, and I think that this is one of those times. And the GFS is no better. The NAM variations of the NAM were no better. They all went hog wild at one point or another with this. And there was one model, though, the WRF model, the WRF, which I never look at. And I happened to look at it yesterday because, working at the TV station where I work at 5S1 News, we have the RPM model, which is basically a combination of different models that sort of averages everything out. I mean, I think that's what it, how it functions, but I'm not 100% sure. But that model was way south, and I couldn't figure out why. And so I kind of looked around, and then I saw the WRF, which couldn't even bring rain into southern, barely could bring any rain into southern New Jersey, let alone places further north. So that's where that was coming from. And this was one of those times where the WRF, which is, again, something we don't look at too often, or something I don't look at too often, it turned out that it was actually onto something yesterday. Greenville, the southeast, relatively quiet in the tropics this time of year. Greenville weather, this is still not into August yet, And in fact, most years you sometimes have to wait to the middle part of August to start to see tropical activity really rev up. So the fact that we don't have anything and haven't seen anything up until now is nothing out of the ordinary. Okay, tropical, the vast majority, 95 to 98% of all hurricanes occur after this date. I think the statistic was the 99% number is at July 22nd. Okay, so that was just 6 days ago. So there's nothing here that is going on in the tropics that is unusual when you look at climatology. So DG is good, wants to know where the cat is. You know what? I honestly don't. Oh, he's napping there's a chair behind me. He's taking a nap over there. That's been his new spot lately. He's been getting on one of the dining room chairs and just taking a snooze for the morning. So he's got the right idea. He's taking a long nap. All right, folks. I'm going to now head over to Facebook and take care of a few things over there. So be sure to stop over on my Facebook page, meteorologistjoecioffi.com, for more weather stuff. And right here on YouTube, if you're new, please join the chat. I love it when you guys chat up. I guess we're just going to have to wait for a big weather event to really get everybody going here as far as chatting is concerned. But I do enjoy it, and unless I'm really, really busy, I will always do these chats come on screen at the end. I'm thinking I like this sort of format of streaming, putting up the weather on the maps where I'm not really distracted too much and I can focus on that, and then coming back to do a live chat at the end. If you're new to my YouTube channel, welcome, and do please hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's absolutely free, and you'll get notifications when these videos come on and when weather gets really active. And I'll be doing live streams. You'll get instant weather, and you'll be able to chat with me and ask whatever questions you'd like. And hopefully I will be able to answer them for you. And as far as the weekend is concerned, the fact that weather conditions up my way will probably be better, especially for the second half, means that I can go fish for a little while on Sunday. I'm not big on fishing outside in the rain, but I'm definitely going to do it on Sunday. And, of course, I'll keep you up to date on all the latest goings-on as far as the weather is concerned. So have a great rest of your Friday. Be safe and enjoy your weekend.